Okay, here's the follow-up to that free pick we sent out last night. CNP was the symbol. Remember, we liked it over this candle here, 1111. Thought it could, if it broke 1111, we thought it could get through this recent high of 1116 and perhaps break out nicely. There was really nothing to the left on the daily chart. Okay, now let's zoom in using 5-minute candles or 15s. Okay, it did hit 11:10 in the first 15 minutes. Still didn't hit our trigger. When it came back up, 11:11 was the trigger. That's where we bought it. And the reason I really liked it at that point was because the low of the day at that point was 11. Okay, so you had an 11:11 trigger and a stop at 10.99. That's a 12-cent risk. So of course I had to call it there. And knowing the daily chart, I thought we could get through that other recent high that we just showed you. Thought we would break yesterday's high and get through that high. But the fact that this had such a narrow range, to me, made it a no-brainer. Now, of course, even a no-brainer, you see what the market can do. It hit 11:11 and came all the way back down. This red line is the S&P, by the way. And the S&P was bouncing nicely, but then it rolled over and took out lows of the day, which I think helped bring CNP down. But overall, just stayed in this narrow range all day. So I did lose 12 cents on this trade. But that's why we liked it. It's because the range was so narrow. You could buy the high of day break. Look how narrow today's candle was. It'll be back on watch again probably on Monday, but look how narrow that candle is. So took the high of day break, stop at the low of the day, and not much at risk at all. So certainly not a great trade, and it's kind of, I guess, sort of embarrassing to put out a free pick that ends up triggering and hitting just the trigger price and then rolling over and taking out the low of the day. But sometimes that happens. I love the narrow range that it had. Let me show you Smith & Wesson. This was, see this big gap up on Smith & Wesson, SWHC, on huge volume the other day? Then came down 4 days in a row, so we threw it on bounce play watch. Okay, what does that mean? Break at the 30-minute high. If this can break its 30-minute high, we were going to take it. 520 was the trigger right here. Its first, these are 30-minute candles. Its first 30 minutes, it went from 519 to 506. So that's another narrow range. I loved it. Okay, so 520 was the trigger. Worst case stop, 505. That's 15 cents risk. And from 520, made it all the way at the end of the day to 578 for an 11% profit potential today. So, I mean, more than made up for that 12 cents or whatever it was on CNP. And BMRN also, we like the daily chart going into today. Here's the daily chart. This was another trade today. Yesterday's high was 1549. We called it at 1551 today. I'll show you why. Okay, it hit 1550 early, hit 1550 again, had this nice tight base, so we called it at 1551, which was right here. Worst case stop below this base at 1540. Okay. That's an 11-cent risk, and from 1551 all the way at the end of the day went all the way to 1601 and never came back down to that, and the stop was only 11 cents away, so I really like that. One of our favorites that several people in the chat room, and I missed this one, but several people in our chat room got AMLN. Remember, I think this was last week's free pick. Here's the, okay, well, that's what happens when E-Trade's charts mess up. For some reason, E-Trade is showing a high today of 92.32. But anyway, we had AMLN on watch today with a trigger price. Let me check my notes here. Trigger price of 12.68. Let me go to 5-minute candles, and it makes that 90-something dollar high disappear. Okay, this is another example of a narrow range. Okay, in 5-minute, the 5-minute high was 12.70. Remember, we called it at 12.68. But since it triggered in the first 5 minutes, we try to stay away from those. So that becomes a no trade in the first 5 minutes. But what we do is we switch and look for another entry. Okay, so then since it hit 12.70 in the first 5 minutes, pulled back, and the low of the day, 15 minutes into the session, was 12.53. So you had a 12.70 high, 12.53 low. Low, excuse me. That's only a 17-cent range. So whenever we get a stock that triggers in the first 5 minutes, we leave it alone. But we subsequently take the break of the 5-minute high, only if we have a narrow range for the day. Okay, so that's exactly what happened, which made the trigger 12.71, and a worst case stop 12.52. That's 19 cents. And from 12.71, this thing went all the way to 14.30. I saw several members in the chat room I talk about them like I'm mad at them because I am. But several members in the chat room celebrating this one today. That was one that can make your whole week. And I was just piddling around with something else at the time, and didn't see this one. But I know I saw several members scaling out of this like we teach. So even though I don't make money on all the trades, sometimes several members make it too. So sometimes you catch some of the calls and you miss some others, and that's just the nature of trading. You can't catch everything. But AMLN was a play in our chat room today. It was on our watch list. Met every one of the parameters we teach, and a huge trade there. Embarrassed to say I missed it, but I was piddling with something else at the time. So, and one other trade I made was QLD today. Bought it right here on this candle. See these consecutive lower tops with 30? These are 30-minute candles, consecutive lower tops. Bought 37.94. Worst case stop 37.71. A little over 20 cents there. That's not bad. And this thing made it all the way to 38.37. Nothing huge, but I scaled out of this one as it went up and was flat somewhere around by here. But another nice little trade for me. But Smith & Wesson, BMRN, AMLN, some very big trades today. So we will try to send out another pick next week. Have a great weekend, and look for probably, I'm going to try to send something early next week because the market's closed on Friday. So we'll try to send out a pick early next week. Now keep in mind, with the market being closed next Friday, I expect low volume all next week. So we may be putting out very few picks next week, but I'll try, even for the room, but I'll still try to kind of laser focus on a couple really good setups for next week. So have a great weekend, and talk to you later.